So we're going to get started. Thank you everyone for joining us for this presentation on U.S. national parks. We have Chris McCormack here, a travel expert who is going to give us his tips, whether you are a novice, a first timer, or an expert of how to best make use of visiting national parks. So I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. Hey, everybody. How are you doing tonight? Thank you for taking some time out of your day here to come learn about the national parks, what we can do there, how to get there, maybe save a couple dollars along the way. It doesn't have to be as expensive as everyone thinks. Real quick, let me just share my screen. All right. We only got about, I don't know, 55 minutes and quite a bit of information to cover. So let's get right into it. Before we get into that, though, I just want to talk a little bit about myself. This is who I was before I started traveling. So I was 20 years old in this photo, and I was going to Coastal Carolina University down in South Carolina. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I kind of just got thrown into the blender like everybody else in my generation. Go to college, pick a major, and do that forever. And I just was very unfulfilled. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I picked a major. I was in school, but like I said, just very unfulfilled. And then my senior year of college, I actually went to Australia for 5 months to study abroad. And after I started doing that, I started to grow my long hair out. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. I just knew that when I went to Australia, that I knew that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. I didn't know how I was going to make it happen, but I just knew that travel was my passion. And I was so relieved to have finally found my purpose of what I wanted to do at such a young age. So I am a photographer. I've been doing photography for about 12, 14 years now, even before I started traveling. And it's one of my favorite hobbies to do. So when I go to all these places and I come home, I have all these amazing photos and videos to share with everybody. I also, if we have any Yankees fans in here, I'm really sorry to hear that. I do not like the Yankees whatsoever. Huge Mets fan right here, but the Yankees do allow me to do their photography for their double and triple A of their minor league system. So if we do have any Yankees fans in here, you might know this guy is Austin Wells. No, that's not Derek Jeter, because sometimes Yankee fans, they don't really know what's going on. They just root for the Yankees. But yeah, so I do photography. It's awesome. I love baseball. It's my favorite sport. I still play baseball to this day. Actually, I'm on a men's league. And my first time in Cuba, I went to Cuba in 2016, and I noticed that when I was there, that there was little kids there playing baseball. There was adults playing baseball, whether it was barefoot, everyone was switching gloves in between innings because there wasn't enough. And actually, I saw catchers playing the catching position without any equipment, no mask, no chest protector, no shin guards, nothing. And I thought to myself, wow, this is an amazing, such a raw passion, and the talent down there was really, really cool to see. So when I came back to New Jersey, I started a baseball foundation, and we were able to raise equipment. And I brought all the baseball equipment down there to Cuba. So we gave out baseballs, bats, cleats, catcher's equipment, and we were able to give it to everybody down there. And in this photo, you can see the eye black was a huge hit down there with the kids. A lot of kids showed up barefoot. We were able to give them cleats. And I love this photo right here because on the left, the baseball on the left, that was a ball that they were actually using for a long, 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 long time. And that same exact ball had actually been restitched about 5 or 6 times. So to be able to give them a brand new white baseball on its own, it is so amazing and the most rewarding feeling and trip and experience I've ever had in my entire life. So last year, I actually started a tour company. I bring people to Guatemala on 5 day or 7 day itineraries. And this is actually a photo from Guatemala from Lake Atiton. And the reason why I'm just telling you about this is because I've really, truly been all over the world. I've done about 4 or 5 cross-country road trips. So not really, the most I don't really have the highest budget when I travel, so I do have to find tricks and trades along the way to be able to make it work. So we're definitely going to be talking about that tonight, about how you can see the national parks. And out of all of the titles that I have, traveler, photographer, speaker, my favorite title in the whole world is Uncle Chris. I have 2 nephews and a niece, and they are just so fun to be with. I love them so much, and they are a big, big part of my life. So we're actually not just going to be talking about national parks tonight. And I think the reason why is because So many people don't even realize how many different opportunities we have to go see America and see our amazing landscape. So, yes, we do have the National Park Service, aka the NPS. So, if you hear me refer to NPS the rest of the program, and I'm talking about the National Park Service, but also we do have this amazing, amazing organization and this amazing opportunity to see different land in America. And it is called the United States Forest Service. So we have so many national forests that people don't even know about. Out of the 63 national parks that we have, the national parks will cover about 83 million acres. That's a lot of land for sure. But did you know that the national forest land actually covers 188 million acres of land? So 100 million acres more of land and different environments and different pieces of America that we are able to go see. Not many people know about this. So we're also going to be talking about the national forest tonight. What's the difference? That's a great question. I'm sure some of you are thinking that right now. Well, what's the difference between national parks and national forests? So, national parks, those are really more about preservation, conservation. We don't really want to change anything in there. It's all about making sure that the national parks look exactly the same right now as they looked 100 years ago, and we want them to look the same 100 years from now. So, the major difference is that for the national forests, there are so many more different uses and different opportunities that people can use national forests. So not only in a national forest can you go hunting or ATVing, or you can actually camp inside the national forest. You can actually go fishing. Of course, you can go hiking in national parks, of course, but also in national forests, they use some of the land as for timber, for logging, for running cattle. So there's a lot more opportunities and a lot more things going on in national forests. Whereas in national parks, yes, you are allowed to go hiking. Sometimes you might even be allowed to, take your boat out, but national forests are one of the most best kept secrets in America. So we're going to talk about a lot of different national parks tonight, but one of them, Acadia National Park up in Maine. I'm sure a lot of people in here have been there. It's pretty close to us if you compare it to, of course, driving out to Utah. Only about 9 hours. I'm from New Jersey. I'm from Morris County, New Jersey. So it's about 9.5 hours for me. And it's an amazing landscape up there, no matter what time of the year you go. Of course, be careful when you go in the winter because it's Maine and it's going to get icy and slippery and a lot of snow. But it is just so worth it to get up there to see a national park because, like I said, most of the really, really big national parks are out west, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Also, Grand Teton National Park. This is, I think, maybe my favorite national park that I've ever been to. It is an absolute treat and truly, truly a spectacle, especially if, coming from the East Coast. I mean, we don't really have mountains like this. Now, of course, we do have the Adirondacks way north in upstate New York, but to see mountains like this and seeing random buffalo running around everywhere, it was so surreal. I was actually on a 6 week road trip in 2022 and during the winter time, and I was camping along the way. And fortunately, I got lucky enough to know somebody who lived in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, because otherwise, I would have had to sleep in my car or in my tent, but it was minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So I got pretty lucky. If you are going to be camping out or, going to see any national park in any season, make sure you are definitely taking precautions about wildfires, flash floods, winter, snow. These are real, real threats to you, and you should not be taken lightly. Another one, Saguaro National Park in Arizona, is an absolutely such a low, or excuse me, underrated national park. Not many people even know it's there, mostly because it's tucked away down deep, deep south of Arizona. And if you just take a look at these three pictures from this one right here in Arizona, and then to this one right here in Grand Tetons, which is in Wyoming, and then to this, and then back to, oh, whoops, and then back to this one in Maine. We are so lucky to be able to go see so many different landscapes and so many different environments. And this is all in our country. It's absolutely incredible. So, like I said before, a lot, if you look at this map here on the western side of America, obviously there is way more space, way more land, way more geographical features to go see. And it can be a little overwhelming to try and get together a trip and to, make it happen. But hopefully after this presentation, we can definitely relieve some of those anxieties and stress for you. So, like I said, on the East Coast, we got Acadia all the way up in Maine, Shenandoah in Virginia, Great Smoky National Parks in Tennessee and North Carolina. And they just, I think it was about maybe a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago now, they just actually announced a brand new national park. It's called New River Gorge in West Virginia. Now, I haven't been to that one yet, but it looks amazing. And I'm sure it's pretty popular because not many national parks in the East Coast, and there's not much opportunity for us East Coasters to go see a national park. So, the top 5 national parks visited, and I love asking this question, especially when I'm in person. It's obviously a little different here. Acadia National Park was number 5. Rocky Mountain National Park, number 4. And these numbers are in millions, so 3.97 million, 4.3 million visitors. Zion, Grand Canyon National Park, and if you could guess the number 1 national park, you don't have to say it on the Zoom or in the chat box, but just maybe say it to yourself, whatever you think the national park is for number 1, take a guess, because I bet you it's probably not what you think. The number 1 most visited national park is Great Smoky Mountains. And I believe it's probably because of the geographical location. We'll go back to it real quick. The geographical location of it, it's really kind of like in the middle of the South. It's on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. So you have all these different states going to the Great Smoky National Park. Of course, us tri-staters are going to make it down there, whether we're going to Gatlinburg or Dollywood. Maybe we're going on a family trip to a log cabin or something down there. But also, not many people know this, and this is probably the real reason why. There is no entrance fee to Great Smoky National Park. So a lot of people think, well, have this mindset. If it's for free, it's for me. And I could totally relate to that. So keep that in mind. Great Smoky National Parks, you don't have to pay to go in. And it's because of some stipulation within Tennessee and North Carolina that the national park land is off of a county road, and for whatever reason the county road isn't allowed to charge tolls, or it gets a little hairy. But just know at the end of the day, Great Smoky National Park, you don't have to pay to go, so keep that in mind if you're planning a trip. So our national forests, again, not many people know these things even exist, or they're even a possibility. This is from Coconino National Forest. It's in Arizona. It's about an hour and a half north. And what's so amazing about this national forest is that a lot of camping there is free. You don't have to ask anybody. And now it is legal and safe, and you're not breaking any laws. And we're going to talk about how you can find these campsites. But this is from the Mogollon Rim in Arizona. Like I said, it's about 2 hours north of Phoenix. And at the time when I was in Phoenix, it was 110 degrees when I left Phoenix. And due to the elevation, by the time I got here, I settled down. I had my campfire going at nighttime. It got down to 30 degrees. So a 2 hour drive, and it was an 80-degree difference. And you see so many stars. There is nobody out there. It is an amazing, amazing campsite, and a lot of national forests can offer this opportunity to you. Here's another one, the Cibola National Forest. This is in New Mexico. I was actually just here in October for the first time. Never heard of this place in my entire life. And I'm going to, again, show you how we can find these dispersed camping sites. This is the website for the National Forest. It's www.forestservicefs.usda.gov. So when you type in this website, it will take you to the homepage. And basically, you can select a state to look for your national forest, or even, let's say you already know which national forest you want to go to, or you've heard of one. You can click the select a forest or grassland list, and it'll literally show you every single national forest that we have in America, and it'll keep you up to date information on if the roads are closed, maybe the national forest is closed because they don't maintain it during the wintertime. Maybe there's wildfires. They show you where you can camp, the facilities they offer. So there's a lot of resources out there that you can use, and this is a really good one for national forests. So the first time that I went to a national park, I was really bummed out that I had to pay to go. I thought that, and it was kind of like the tri-state area in me, like the New Jersey in me. I'm like, oh my God, you have to pay for everything. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But when I actually got into the national park and I actually saw with my own eyes, I'm like, oh my God, this place is massive. It's huge. It is crazy how big a national park is. When I saw that, I was like, okay, you know what? Now it kind of makes sense why we have to pay, and it doesn't bother me as much. Or actually, it completely erased everything I felt about paying for a national park because, people do have to maintain not just the garbages or the parking lots, but they got to maintain the trail markers, the trails, and everything else that you want to do when you go to a national park, whether it's a hike, whether there are activities happening with the national park rangers. And a lot of times you can do some research on to see if they have a junior ranger program. So basically what that is, and this is the best example that comes to mind, is when I was at the Grand Canyon, they had a junior ranger program, and basically they were showing kids how to read the stars and look at the stars with telescopes. It was a really, really cool program. So if you're ever taking a family trip, definitely find out how you can maybe maximize it and give your kids more opportunities or more activities to learn, not just about, reading a compass, but also maybe reading the stars as well. It was really cool. You can find that information at the National Park Service website, and basically you just type in the national park that you want to go to. So Grand Teton National Park, this is another one that costs $35. And most of these national parks are the monster ones, at least, they're going to cost $35. And the way to get around that, and I use that term very cautiously. I don't want to say get around, but the way that you can alleviate the financial burden of trying to see national parks. Because especially if you're in Utah, you could go to 4 or 5 different national parks on the same trip, and they're all going to be $35 each. So we're looking at least $175 right there. Boom, just for the entrance fee. So what does the entrance fee cover? So the entrance fee covers 7 days and up to 1 vehicle. So you have 7 days to do whatever you want to do in there. And sometimes there are, sometimes people don't even stay for the full 7 days because sometimes their trip is only maybe 10 days or 14 days. So how can we get around paying all this money to go see these amazing, natural, beautiful landmarks? Well, luckily for us, the National Park Service, the NPS, they decided to create something called the America the Beautiful Pass. And the America the Beautiful Pass are basically access cards, you could say, where depending on which one you get, they offer basically different ways that you can get them. So what do I mean by that? There are 7 different types of America the Beautiful passes. And the first one that we're going to talk about is called the annual pass. So this is for basically everybody of all ages above 18, or really anybody above 10. And if you had this pass, then you can go to any national park for as long as you want, for as many days as you want, as many times as you want in 1 calendar year. So if you bought your national park pass today, February 15th, then your national park pass is good until February 15th of 2025. The America the Beautiful Pass for the annual cost $80 for 1 year. So just $80 for 1 whole year of going to national parks, then you have immediately already cut that budget in half, or that spending in half, if you wanted to go see the 5 different national parks in Utah on 1 trip. And another really cool feature about this is that they gave us 2 slots on the bottom of the card. So on the bottom of the card, you would have to write your name. And when you show up to the booth of the entrance of the national park, you would show your driver's license along with your America the Beautiful Pass so that they can match the names. Well, fortunately for us, they put another slot so you can put someone else's name on there. So really, if you think about it, you really only have to pay for the national park pass for $40 if you want to split it with somebody else. Just make sure that they don't lose that pass, and make sure they return it to you before you go on your trip. So if you think about it, it's $40 for a year. and it's really cool. It's great. It's a really, really amazing feature. So that's the annual one. They have the military America the Beautiful Pass. So this is for veterans. So if you're an active military member, it does not, you don't apply, you don't count towards that. It's just for the veterans because obviously they gave their time and they served for our country. So we appreciate that. We salute them. And this is an actually interesting one. So if anybody has any fourth graders in here or a third grader, you should really pay attention to this. So for whatever reason, the National Park Service, the NPS, they did a research, they did an experiment or a study on what age is the peak interest for kids to learn about national parks, conservation, hiking, fishing, all that stuff. And the research said that at fourth grade is the peak. So if you have a fourth grader, then you can apply for the America the Beautiful Pass, and it is free. You don't have to pay anything. It costs nothing. So if you plan it correctly and you have a second grader, a third grader, and a fourth grader, then you have 3 years of free entry to national parks. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Then they have the senior pass. There's two different types of senior passes. They have the annual and they have the lifetime pass. So this doesn't count until you're 62 years old. And basically the senior pass for annual, it's excuse me, $60 for, oh no, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's $20 for 1 year. And maybe this is for people who've never been to a national park. They don't know if they're going to like it. So they just get the annual. Only $20 lasts you the whole year. Whereas the lifetime senior pass, if you're 62 years or older and you get the lifetime senior pass, it's $80 and that's it. You never have to pay for a national park pass ever again. You are in, you are set, you made it. So something to think about, something to consider, especially if you're going on a road trip or, maybe you've been waiting to get this lifetime senior pass because you're like me paying the annual pass every single year. So yeah, it's good. You have two different options as a senior and everybody loves options. That's for sure. Then they have the access pass. So this is for people who are a little bit less fortunate than we are and handicapped. So if you have a broken leg or a broken arm, doesn't count. You won't qualify for the access pass. And this is free because everybody should be allowed to go see national parks, especially in the country that they're from. It's so amazing. They're so beautiful. And hats off to the National Park Service for doing that. And then they have the volunteer pass. The volunteer pass is for people who are volunteering their time with an organization that is partnered up with the NPS. If you donate 250 hours of your time, then you will get a volunteer pass and or volunteer America the Beautiful pass, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it. So these are some ways that you can get around just the entrance fees, which is really nice. So this is my vehicle, Toyota Camry 2003. I named my car Odysseus because it's a warrior. And I got this car in 2019 in Phoenix, Arizona. And I've done about 3 or 4 or 5 cross-country road trips in it. And people are always asking me, how are you able to do this? Like, where do you stay? What do you do? So this is really more so on maybe like the advanced side of the road trippers out there or people who want to go see national parks. This is called remote camping right here, dispersed camping. So this is a campsite that, like I said, is legal. It's you're not breaking any laws. You're allowed to be here. It's on land that is known as Bureau of Land Management. So BLM, Bureau of Land Management. And this is public land that our federal tax dollars go to, that we pay for every year. So you should be able to go see and hang out on your public land that you're paying your federal tax dollars towards every single year. So this particular campsite was right outside Badlands National Park in South Dakota. Like I said, it was free. There was nobody else there. I had the whole place to myself. And in a couple of slides, I'm going to show you the app/website that I use to find this place. Again, this is another one in South Dakota. It was a little bit chilly here at nighttime during the winter, but again, campsite free. I'm in the middle of nowhere, really, really loving life because for me, when I travel, I like to do things by myself. Not necessarily meaning I don't like to socialize. I love to socialize, but when it comes to our national parks, our hiking or road trips, I like tend to be more by myself. So finding these remote campsites are really, really awesome. So some of the resources that I use, and again, or actually, I should say, I'm not paid by any resource or sponsored by any of these people. I genuinely really enjoy these resources, and that's why they're here. So Gas Buddy, this is a great app because if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're running low on gas, you can go to this app. It'll pick up your location and it'll show you the closest gas station, how far you are, how close you are. But also, too, I don't know if this has ever happened to anyone. I know it's happened to me a bunch of times before I started using this app. Have you ever been driving? And it could be, usually it tends to be somewhere we're not familiar with, and your gas is getting really, really low, and you're starting to get a little nervous. And you say, okay, well, next gas station I see, I'm just going to pull over. So you pull over, you get gas, it's $4 a gallon, let's say. And then literally 1 minute down the road, it's $3 a gallon. Now I know it's only $1 difference, but when you're paying for gas, that can hurt. So Gas Buddy prevents that as well. So if you're in an area where you're not familiar with, you can, or if you're feeling like, oh God, I'm getting low on gas, you can look up on this app your location. And it works because the users who update the information are people like you and I. So it's just people who are going to the gas station. But Gas Buddy rewards those who update the gas prices and the locations and the information. And if they're true, then they get more points. So, and I guess eventually, if you do enough reviews of gas stations, they'll give you a free tank of gas or whatever the rewards will be. So the next one, Campendium. This is how I find all of my remote campsites. This is how I find all of these places where I just am totally by myself. So when I was in New Mexico, I was there for the solar eclipse that happened in October. And this is the final composition that I was able to put together. And I was able to get this photo because I was using Campendium. So I'd never been to New Mexico before, but I knew that I needed to be on a certain side of the mountains that kind of run through New Mexico a little bit. The sun rises in the east and the solar eclipse was happening at 9:30 in the morning. So I went to Campendium and I typed in, where do you want to camp? I did New Mexico. So when you type in your location, and Campendium is just for America, so it's not a worldwide app or website. It's just for America. You would type in where you are. So in this example, we're going to do New Mexico, and it's going to show you an entire heat map of the entire state of where you can go camping. And what's really cool about it is that even if you're a beginner or a super advanced road tripper, national park seer, it'll show you every different type of place that you can go camping at. So if you have an RV and you want to stay in an RV park, then you're going to be looking for the blue tabs. If you want to go camping and you don't necessarily want to be completely in the middle of nowhere by yourself with no facilities, well, you can look at this heat map and click on each green tab, and those are different campgrounds and different campsites that you can go look at. They'll have photos, reviews, all the way down to how good is the Verizon reception? How good is the AT&T reception? So for me, I was looking for free camping because like I said, my budget is not very high when I travel. So I was looking for a free campsite and we came across this one up here in the top, nightly rate, free. And what's really cool is that, again, this is kind of like Gas Buddies, people like just you and I who are uploading information. So for me, when I'm in my '03 Camry, the most important thing that I need to look at when I'm looking for a campground or a campsite is how is the access. So this guy, Odd Johnny, wrote, not super ideal for small cars, but you could definitely make it. So when I read this, I think to myself, okay, not great for small cars, but you can definitely make it if you're a smart driver, a good driver. That's how I took it. So, and again, it's really good. Lots of space for hiking and mountain biking. Each star, each category here, I'll break it down for you. The second, or not, maybe not the second most important, but the one that I look for is the noise. So if there's 5 stars for noise, that means that it's very quiet. And if it's 1 star, then that means that it is very, very loud. And that's something that you don't want. So real quick, we got a question here. Teresa McGarvey, can you put up the name of that? Yes, Campendium. and you'll see it again. So Campendium is also a website and an app. It's not just one or the other. And then we have another questioner, Alexander. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. Chris, have you ever used the RV for a national park trip? I have not used an RV for a national park trip. When I was in Iceland, I did use an RV, but no, I have not used an RV for a national park. But just because you do have a a RV doesn't mean that you can't use this website slash app called Campendium. It really, really, it really is worth it. And then the next one that I learned about, there's a huge community of overlanders. Now, overlanders are people who stay either in RVs or 4x4s, pop-up tents on their roof. Maybe they're motorcycle drivers going across America. This iOverlander is an app slash website where it is basically worldwide. So you can find campsites all over the world with this app slash website. And what's so cool is that it's free. This is free. You don't have to pay, and it's all user updated, which is nice. I should mention this. Campendium does have a paid version and a free version. So obviously with the paid version, you would get a lot more features. But I think that for me, the free version is just fine. We got one more from here from Miriam. Miriam said, regarding noise level, is that man-made noise only? Would a campsite next to a waterfall have a lower noise rating? That's an excellent question, Miriam. I believe that it is man-made noise. So sometimes it might be you might be able to hear a highway, you might be able to hear a restaurant, a bar, whatever the case may be. Most of the time it's man-made, because I know if I was in the middle of nowhere and I heard a waterfall trickling, I certainly would not be upset about that. Thank you, Miriam. That was a great question. And so iOverlander, it's kind of the same thing as the Campendium. So America is pretty big. So I just did a screenshot here of California, Nevada, the Four Corner States, Northern Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and a little bit of or Nebraska, and a little bit of Kansas. So as you can see, there's a lot of places to go camping. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, some of them could be a Walmart parking lot. It is so much information for us out there to be able to go see our country and to go see how beautiful this place is. And you can definitely make it happen. And it's like I said. So, okay, you know what? Let me save that for this next one. Recreation.gov is for if you wanted to book a campsite through the government and stay at a national park facility. So what do I mean by that? So in Glacier National Park, you can go camping inside the national park, but it's kind of like campgrounds. So I don't know if anyone in here has ever been to the Catskills, North Lake, South Lake campground. It's kind of like that, except that the problem with this website is that most campsites are already booked like 6 months in advance. So it's really, really tough to get the campgrounds that you want. Also, it should be noted that you can ask ahead of time. You can either call, or actually it might even be listed on the website. Some national parks have this thing called walk-in campgrounds. So those are for people who don't have reservations. They will designate a certain amount of campgrounds slash campsites where people who are just driving in off the road can say, hey, do you have any openings? And they will go there and stay there. But not all are like that. This next app, we're going to talk really quickly about it. It's my favorite app slash website to find airfare. Sometimes people want to fly out to Arizona and rent their RV or rent their cars, or sometimes people want to fly to Jackson Hole, Wyoming to go see Grand Teton and Yellowstone. Skyscanner is the best app for the cheapest airfare, because you can type in from New York and it will include all 3 New York airports and then 2 everywhere in the world. So and that includes all the states and every country in the world. It's absolutely amazing. So one more thing to keep in mind is that we live in a day and age where sometimes you need permits to go and do activities. Perfect example of that is Cadillac Mountain on Acadia. You might think that you can just drive up Cadillac Mountain and watch the sunset. Well, unfortunately, that is no longer the case. You actually have to apply for a ticket, and you will have to get that ahead of time. You can't just get it day of because they sell out so quickly. And it's unfortunate, but there's just so many cars and not enough space, and there's so many people and not enough patience. So sometimes you do have to do that. And also, this could happen with hiking trails in some national parks. Sometimes you need a permit slash ticket to go do these things. So some of the best ways, again, to get the best equipment for your money, offer up. Facebook Marketplace is such a good place for getting camping equipment. You don't have to get these crazy, super expensive brand names to go camping or go see America. For me, when I was living in Arizona, I got my camping stove, dual stove, Coleman, off of Facebook Marketplace. It cost me $5. Now it was rusty. The aesthetics of the stove weren't great, but when you're in the middle of nowhere, as long as there's fire coming out of your stove and you can cook food or boil water, really the only thing that matters. So sometimes we can get a little hung up on, oh, well, it doesn't look great. But yes, but does it perform its job? Does it do what it's supposed to do? So we can really, really save a ton of money using OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace. Also, a lot of people, I'm sure in here, either have heard of Facebook or have a Facebook. So sometimes people don't use Facebook to its full advantage and use it just as a social media. I use Facebook, yes, of course, as a social media, but also as a search engine as well. So if you type in into your top left corner of Facebook, into the groups, you type in any of these things right here, travelers of U.S. national parks. So you just type in U.S. national parks. You have all these groups right here, people posting about up-to-date information, what's happening. If you have a question, you can write it in these groups. They're free to join. And what's really cool is that, so in this first group right here, travelers of the U.S. national parks, there's 196,000 people in this group, 10 posts a day. I'm sure your question's been asked 500 times already, so you can just easily search within the group your question, look for it, or just ask it again. And look, people will respond immediately to your question. So definitely keep that in mind about the search engine part of Facebook. We do have a comment here. Can you recommend a good trial map app? So I believe there's a GPS. I'm assuming you're thinking GPS. It's called Gaia, Gaia, Gaia GPS system. And that's a good one if you're, doing backcountry or motorcycles. I think that's what you mean. And we have another one, Bonjon. What's up, Bonjon? In light of what is happening in the world now, is it wise to travel to remote areas alone? Well, you're asking the wrong person because I do all my traveling alone. And I would say, usually one of the questions people ask me a lot is, aren't you afraid of seeing animals in the middle of nowhere? Are you afraid of anything happening? I'm more afraid of seeing a person in the middle of nowhere, than I am an animal. But I get it. There are things can happen, things can go wrong, but that can really happen anywhere. I wouldn't want, somebody to, hold themselves back, because of that. So we'll continue. Craigslist, again, another really good place to find cheap, good equipment. Now, obviously, if what you're looking for doesn't work, then don't get it, then don't do it. Garage sales, this is great for if you're needing maybe winter jackets or whatever the case may be, and you're not going to really use it ever again after that. Thrift stores and Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is amazing for utensils, cookware, plastic containers, Tupperware, garbage bags. Everything in your kitchen should be from Dollar Tree if you're going on a camping trip. You don't need very expensive things for that. And it's definitely worth the investment. Also, yeah, so the Gaia GPS system, I'm not sure if I understood your question, but basically that's like a map app where it can tell you like where you're going. If not, here, I'll write my email real quick in the chat. If anybody has any further questions that I might not be able to have time to get to, just throw them in there for me. I would appreciate that. Or just email me. So I know that there might be some people in here who are a little bit more well-traveled, especially with camping, but sometimes, there are people who don't know where to start and don't know what they need. So some of the really, really important equipment that I think you would need to start, even if you're just car camping, I'm not even talking about backcountry camping with a backpack. Headlamp is crucial to your survival because and this would definitely still even apply to advanced campers or advanced road trippers. The headlamp is incredible because now you have two hands to do whatever you need to do. Change a tire, set up your tent, chop wood, whatever the case is. Whereas if you don't have a headlamp, you have to hold your flashlight or you have to hold your phone and do something with one hand. And it's so frustrating. Make sure you get a headlamp. Toilet paper, huge. You never know when, where, what's going to happen. This is a water container, not really used for drinking purposes. It can be, but mostly it's used for if you're camping, you fill this up with water and you can use that to clean your dishes after you're cooking or rinse things out, whatever the case may be. Spare tank for gasoline. Sometimes you can be really, really in the middle of nowhere and there's no gas. One time I was in northern Arizona going to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and I was in on an Indian reservation, and I was getting pretty low on gas, and I noticed that there was a gas station and it was $14 a gallon. And this was in 2019, $14 a gallon for regular gas. So I had my spare tank or my spare 2 gallon gasoline. And just in case, I would have just enough to get through to the other side to get back down to about 250, 275 for gas. This is for jumping your car. So when I was in the Grand Tetons, my car was making noises I never even knew were possible to come from a vehicle. And this is good because sometimes it can get so cold that your car dies. Maybe you leave your lights on. Maybe you lift the radio on. You can use it for your RVs, your campers, whatever the case may be. This is for lifting up your car. Now, I know a lot of cars will have their own tire system where that you can prop the car up, but I just like this one better because it's so much easier and it's a lot more heavy duty just in case, for whatever reason you needed something a little bit with a little bit extra oomph for it. This is good for not necessarily chopping down trees that are perfectly fine, but when you're staying kind of in the middle of nowhere, you can see trees that have fallen and you can start chopping them up, breaking them up and bringing them back to your camp, or even seeing a tree that's already dead and you can use it to, again, chop it up and bring it back to your camp for firewood. Now, bungee cords, wow. Bungee cords might be the most important piece of equipment. Even when I'm backpacking internationally, whether I'm in South America, Europe, Asia, I always have bungee cords on me. Now, these are good bungee cords, but these are the best bungee cords that you can get. You really want to get these ones and just make sure that they're properly secure, because when they're not and they come flying back at you and hit you in the shin or the knee, it really, really, really does not feel good. And then finally, the bear spray. They say that if you are encountering an 800-pound grizzly bear or Kodiak bear and it's running at you full speed, that if you spray the bear spray at it, it'll stop this 800-pound animal from getting you. I'm not really too sure, but what I do know is that if you are going to places like Alaska or Glacier National Park up in Montana or even Yellowstone, I'm sure they work on wolves too. You really do want to have this. I only had to use it one time when I was in Glacier National Park. I was on a trailhead. I was on a trail in Glacier where it was very, very remote, not a lot of foot traffic. So animals tend to go to places where people aren't. And the only time I had to use it was to just make sure that it actually worked in case I had to use it. So fortunately, I never had a 800-pound animal running at me full speed. So I am very happy to announce that. One more. We got a quick question here from Bonjon. Bonjon, you sound familiar. I think I've seen you somewhere before. Have you ever been confronted with a large animal? The largest animal that I've been confronted by was probably a black bear, and that was in New Jersey on a hike. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, nothing confrontational, but it did get pretty close to me. And I kind of just stayed calm and continued to drink my water and eat my apple as if nothing was happening. So I think that's probably why. Nothing happened, luckily. So a lot of times, some of the bigger national parks will have a shuttle service, and these are really nice. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the thought, but sometimes, these places have thousands and thousands and thousands of visitors. And as you can see, this shuttle service is like a 16-person passenger van. So, and the distances from the campgrounds to this welcoming center on top of in Glacier, it's about a 30-40 minute ride. So, you could be waiting online for a long time. So another example of that, the shuttles start at 9 a.m. You wake up at 8 o'clock, you're having a nice cup of coffee, you just ate breakfast, you're with your kids or you're with your wife or your husband, whoever. You say, okay, let's go catch a shuttle and go, take us to the trailhead so we can start our hike. Well, you get to the shuttle line and it's about 200 people deep who've been waiting since 7 o'clock in the morning for the first shuttle. So you're kind of in a bad spot. Do you want to take the chance and drive your car and hope you can find parking? Or do you wait in line with the shuttle and just wait it out? It's a really tough call. And I think that I see pros and cons on both sides. Ultimately, I always try to take my own car and just pray I find a spot somewhere or make a spot somewhere. And the reason for that is because, a lot of times, especially, different times of the year, you're waiting online and it looks exactly like this photo. Everything's nice, everything's beautiful. And then 25 minutes later, it's a monsoon with 50-mile-per-hour winds, and the 16-person passenger van, just got the last person on and now you're stuck. So do you wait in line in the rain or what do you do? So for me, I always try to keep things in control, especially with my vehicle. And now obviously, during the high seasons, the national parks that do have shuttle services will offer more frequent rides, but sometimes it's just not enough because there's so many people who want to experience our land and in basically our backyard. It's really important to plan ahead. So what do I mean by that? You really need to define your trip and what are you trying to do? Reason being is because you can lose a lot of time, you can lose a lot of money by kind of being a ship without a rudder. You don't really know what you want to do. You're kind of just floating. And, money, is important, of course, but there's nothing worse than lost time because you're never going to get that back, especially vacation time that you only get once a year. So I always say, try and pick like one or two mandatory activities or places you want to go to and try to really figure out what is exactly you're looking for. Is it for leisure? Is it a family trip? Are you trying to maybe do a little reflecting? Are you trying to go camping? Are you trying to, whatever the case may be, it's really important that you plan ahead. More importantly, quality over quantity. Now, I get this a lot. The example for national parks is there's 5 national parks in Utah, right? Well, if people are only going on a 10-day trip or a 2-week trip, and you're going to 5 different national parks, how could you really ever learn or experience the essence of each national park? You know what I'm saying? You don't really have enough time to dive in to each national park. So when I say pick one or two mandatory things, try and pick one or two mandatory places. And I think a really good place to start with that is with the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, because Grand Teton is basically it's kind of like New York and New Jersey. They border each other. So you can drive from Yellowstone right into Grand Teton or vice versa. You could start in Grand Teton and go right into Yellowstone. So you can, definitely see a lot of different things, but you're not taking up so much time driving all over southern Utah or Utah to see different places. So just try and keep that in mind when you're planning a trip. And that's just not for national parks, that's for any trip. The scenic byways and highways of this country are absolutely breathtaking. And not many people, again, know these are even a thing. This is a byway that I took in Arizona. This is the Vermilion Cliffs. I didn't even know this existed. I just saw a random sign and I said, okay, you know what? I'll go this way. When I rerouted the GPS, it took, it added an hour and a half to my trip. But here's the thing. That is not, to me, that is not lost time because you are seeing a piece of America no one even knows exists, essentially. Like when I was out here, I didn't see another car for 3 hours. It was so beautiful. And basically, this is an example of a scenic byway sign in Maine. You look for these byways, and instead of just taking the interstates, which are, yes, are quicker, you can take some time to see totally different landscapes that you didn't even know was a thing. In New Jersey, we have one. It's called the Palisades Scenic Byways. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Maybe some of you have been on it before. Now, for people in New Jersey, they might take it for granted because it's part of their daily commute. And they're like, okay, whatever, Palisades Scenic Byway, sure. But from somebody from Nebraska or somebody from Minnesota or Texas, wherever, if you're driving on the Palisades Scenic Byway in the fall, that is a really, really beautiful road to be on. Amazing views. The foliage is awesome. And not many people from Texas or Nebraska know that's even a thing. So that's kind of my point when I say that. Why should we go to the national parks? Why should we go to the um, national forest? Well, first and foremost, number one, it is so important because you get to find out where we come from. You get to finally understand and see different people from all over America. And it's just nice to get out of the bubble of the tri-state. But, like this is where we come from. This is where we're from. We're all Americans in here, and this is all of our land to share and enjoy and hike through and go fishing on, whatever you want to do. Bring your kids. It's so amazing. Leaving the bubble is really, really important, especially for us tri-staters. I mean, when we're driving and we see all these different things, it's just incredible because it really puts things in perspective for us. So when we're driving through Nebraska, we usually think to ourselves, oh my Lord, how do people live here? I could never imagine living here. Well, what's really cool about that is that when people from Nebraska leave their bubble and come to New York or New Jersey, they think the same exact thing. Oh my Lord, how do people live here? I could never do this. And that's kind of like the first step of starting to understand somebody and understand where they're coming from. It's just, and once you get that perspective, I think that is something that is really lacking right now, not just in America, but in the world, is just the understanding of each other. Like we all want the same things. We want to provide for our families, we want to enjoy our families, and we want to protect our families. That's everybody's goal in this world. And I think that when you meet somebody from Nebraska or you meet somebody from Louisiana or Montana, wherever, you can really start to get a better grasp about what is going on and, maybe start to understand why they think the way they think. We just got sorry, I missed a lot of questions here. Kathleen M. Coleman Kelly. Hey, what's up, Kathleen? She said, what are the high seasons? I'm assuming July and August. Bingo. High seasons are July and August. Aaron, why'd you choose Guatemala to take people on tours? Email me and I'll tell you that answer. Bonjon, saw you, Peru, Guatemala. Oh, you're from Larchmont. Yes. Okay. Got you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being stellar, you come in at 100. Bonjon, appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Teresa, do you do tours? Yes, I do. Email me. We don't really have much time for me to dive into that. Off topic. Sorry, Teresa. Nancy, how much in advance do you have to book for Yosemite? Well, if you're looking for this summer, I can guarantee you it's already booked. So definitely go to Campendium. Bonjon, I think you will ultimately be the next Anthony Bourdain. Maybe. Hopefully, we don't have the same ending, though. Thank you, Bonjon. Zin Chen, what's up, Zin? Is the byways on the map? Yes, they are. And Nat Geo has a book, Scenic Byways and Highways. It's an amazing book. I got it at a thrift store, actually, for 50 cents. And they're still accurate. They're still true to this day. Christabel Brown. Hey, what's up, Christabel? Thanks for coming. Is there a specific time of the year that is better to visit? Where would I find that info? So that is a little bit of a loaded question because sometimes national parks are only open so for example, Glacier National Park is only open from May to September because they get that much snow that they just shut the park down. So for Glacier, May to September, it is rocking. It is super busy because that's the only time of the year that it's open. Also, you could definitely find that info just on Google or, basically the nps.gov. It can definitely tell you more information about that. Or, like I said, you go to the Facebook group and you type in just U.S. National Parks. You pick a group and you ask that question. I'm looking to visit Big Bend National Park. What's a good time to go? Let's see. Best park in California to see. That's not for me to say. Everybody has different preferences. Some people like Death Valley in the desert. Some people like the redwoods and being in a forest. That's up for you to find out. Nancy, thanks. Or top three. Well, I think that the national parks in California, I think they have like 8 or 10. So I've only been to one of them. So I can't really say. I wouldn't be fair to me to point you in the right or steer you in the wrong direction there. So that being said, I want to thank Allison for setting this up, Liz from Lewisboro, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting Miranda, Miriam, right? I think I got that right. I appreciate everybody for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. And at this point, the program has been concluded, and I really, really do appreciate your time and your questions. And I hope you enjoyed the program. Like I said, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for everyone who attended. I hope you have a great night.